Jim Jones says gangs are like fraternities. Okay. Let's see what he's got to say.
Arguing about Bloods versus Frats, gangs versus
Fraternities, the same thing. Blood is a fraternity. 100%. It's no difference. It's no difference. The only thing they did different is file legal papers that make them a fraternity. If somebody was to name Blood, Alpha, Phi Blood.
So let's keep track. He said there's no difference between gangs and fraternity. He said there's no difference
Right
except
now,
legal papers.
and file the papers, then Blood will be a fraternity, and we can start it anywhere, and they can put it in colleges and all that. Being Blood is not a crime. What you do, if you're doing criminal activity as being a Blood, makes it a crime. But that doesn't mean every Blood is a criminal. It doesn't mean every Blood needs to go to jail for the crime that one Blood did. So I know there's a lot of people in fraternities that broke hella laws and they are locked up right now. I know there's a lot of Q dogs who lock their ass up right now. You heard? You dig? But nobody talks about that. It's all the same thing. You heard?
Funny shit.
It's all the same thing. Freemasons, fraternities, Bloods, Crips, Yetas, it's all the same thing.
I don't know. Let me ask you a question about that, though. Let me ask you a question about that. So if somebody said, what's the fundamental
The benefits
purpose?
might not be the same.
There we go.
Okay, so at first he said they're exactly the same. Okay, so now we're getting some differentiation. Okay, so now the benefits aren't the same.
Fraternity has a different type of benefit. You sign to this fraternity, hopefully to help you out with your future successes and business endeavors. And this dude might work at this law firm. Now he gives you an automatic in. Now you're intern there, end up being you dig like. But it kind of works in the same way of that also because you got people like me that have been helping out people legally and giving people different type of jobs and opportunities in their lifestyle. So what's the difference?
So let me tell you the difference, Jim Jones. With this logic that you're using, any group of people are then the same. Any group, cohort of people, whether it's a fraternity or a gang or whatever, an LLC, any group of people, by this logic, is the same. Because there's people in that group, just like with gangs and fraternities, I can help somebody out. People in fraternities can help somebody out. Therefore, gangs and fraternities are the same. And I'm going to use this example throughout this video. Nazis, they're the same as fraternities, right? Nazis is the same as a gang, right? We're just, again, I don't think this. We're following Jim Jones's logic. Nazis are the same as fraternities and gangs because if a Nazi sees a fellow Nazi, just like fraternities, he can help him get a job, right? Sometimes you have to use an extreme example to just highlight how stupid the things people say are.
Let me ask you this though. Oh, go ahead.
Is it a difference in majority versus minority?
As far as what?
And when I say that, you Blood, right?
Right.
If we took 100 Bloods,
Right.
give me a real one, yo, not to win your argument, or not argument, a real one of people that are putting other people in position to be successful. Keep it above.
Out of 100 Bloods, how many? Yeah, the percentage might be low. It might be low.
So that's where the differentiation lies, because with the sorority example.
So now we got a second differentiation. Remember, Jim Jones started the video by saying fraternities and gangs are the exact same. The only difference is that fraternities have legal paperwork. So now we're getting to some differences.
Or with the Mason example, or with the Congress, senators. Imani brought up, the Congress and senators, they be running that shit like death row. But niggas won't know that. What we see from gang culture, and we all been around, all our friends, family, whatever, is down, but
I'm trying to know you, nigga. Don't try to get me.
Get you affiliated.
everybody in here got family or friends that's affiliated.
Right, and I'm glad Ish says that because, especially here in California, we all have people, family, friends who are affiliated. We've grown up around this stuff. Why pretend that being in a gang is something positive? Being in a fraternity is generally something positive. And when there's news that comes out about hazing and about pledging practices that are not ethical, the fraternities are admonished for that. Like we point out and we purge out the parts of the fraternities that are not positive. Like an old man and Jim Jones saying this type of thing, because like the old guys who I know who are in that lifestyle, I don't know if I've ever heard them talk like this. They talk about gangs as being something like, yo, that was in my past. I want to do better. I don't advise this to you. I don't advise this to my son, my family members. Like, you can do something better in your life. So to see an old man talking about it like, oh yeah, I'm repping my blah, like this street gang is just like a fraternity. This is giving Steven Jackson going to old block checking in as if it's something cool to be doing.
Whether they knee deep or whether they just on the surface. So what I'm saying is the perception of it is where we get the disparity.
100%.
Because we don't see enough niggas.
You asked me a question, now you're going to something different. You asked me if being Blood in a fraternity, do I feel is the same thing? And yes, I feel it's the same thing. I feel being a Blood is a fraternity. Now, there's big differences between being Alpha Phi Alpha and non-trade gangster.
Okay, so now it's a difference. So now, okay, there's a big difference. Remember, we started off the video by saying, Jim Jones saying, gangs, street gangs, and fraternities, college fraternities are the exact same thing, verbatim. So
Differences, but the premise of what it is the same thing, my brother.
So, I mean, fraternities is brotherhoods, right? And
Organizations.
a gang is a brotherhood. I think the question for me is like, what's it organized around? So like when I'm in a fraternity and it was like, all right, we organize around black men achieving, right?
yeah.
And I got a lot of respect actually for gangs and shit they do, especially historically. I guess my question
Okay.
is, what do Bloods organize around, or Crips organize around? Like, what's the goal? What's the reason for coming together? What's
The brotherhood is about lifting each other up. Like what we see in the public, we got a lot of ignorance when it comes to the gang, but the underline is about lifting each other up. That's what we believe in. Each one teach one and things like that, but you won't see that.
Each one teach one what? See, I never knew this, y'all. Again, the logic that Jim Jones is using, you can use for the Nazis. Well, the Nazis were a brotherhood, right? And the Nazis, they didn't start off by just doing the Holocaust. It started off about German empowerment after World War I, after the Treaty of Versailles. It was a German unification, a brotherhood. Like, we're going to uplift each other. To me, it doesn't really matter how these things start. It matters the results. So just because the Nazis at one point, they may have had some semblance of a message that could be misconstrued as positive, it doesn't negate all the negative. The Nazis are a net negative. Street gangs are a net negative. I don't see how you can be black and grow up in this stuff and say anything otherwise. I don't know why Jim Jones feels the need to defend this tooth and nail like this, to the point where he's making outrageous claims such as street gangs and college fraternities are the exact same thing. He's talking about the premise and how it started. There's a lot of things that start positive and turn negative. So it really doesn't matter how it started now, does it?
That's what we believe in. Each one teach one and things like that, but you won't see that. The media only wants you to paint the ugly picture, but there's a lot of positive situations that goes on.
The media doesn't have to paint an ugly picture of what gangs do. The media doesn't have to paint an ugly picture. For anyone who's grown up in LA and like lived there, especially like even before my time, but even during my time, like we can't go to certain stores. People are scared to walk around at night. Like your sister is getting robbed, like at the store, like because the environment that they've created is dangerous. So the media and this stuff don't get reported by we don't need the media to tell us this. Like Jim Jones is like on some victim mentality. Or the media makes it seem like the gangs, they don't show the back to school drive we did. Okay, so if you've spooked an entire neighborhood and there has been innocents murdered and there have been home invasions, robberies, and the drugs that you sell have effectively broken apart hundreds of families, destroyed black communities, which has happened all throughout LA, mind you, communities of black people. And then a crack epidemic effectively destroyed those families. If you've done all this in your neighborhood, but you did a back to school drive or you did a turkey drive for Thanksgiving, does that one act of positivity negate the negative that you've done? Jim Jones is talking like, yo, we do all this positive stuff, but the media doesn't even have to slander gangs. Anyone who grows up in these neighborhoods can see the negativity that takes place
Within the gang.
Now, does some positive stuff happen? I mean, sure, I saw Crip Mac feeding the homeless, but does this negate the negative? Absolutely not.
Community, there's a lot of brothers that have been through a lot that always pour into their community to give back. There's a lot of gang prevention programs that gang leaders run themselves and things like that. Like, you know what I mean?
So if gangs are this positive force, right? Why do you even need a gang prevention program? Like, think about it. Let's hear that again.
There's a lot of brothers that have been through a lot that always pour into their community to give back. There's a lot of gang prevention programs that...
Notice how there are no fraternity prevention programs. If the gangs are just so misunderstood, right? Why is there even a gang prevention program to begin with?
Gang leaders run themselves and things like that. Like, you know what I mean? But the word gang itself already puts a twist on it, or anything that happens to it, you dig? So it's like the positivity goes out the window as soon as somebody hears gang, or as soon as somebody hears blood, or someone hears Crip, when there's a lot of positive activity goes on within the gang community.
Yeah, there's more
Would you
negative.
want your son to join?
Would I want my son to join?
Yeah.
No, I say that in my music. I wouldn't.
So why wouldn't you want your son to join? See, if you're in a fraternity, and he's saying, Jim Jones is the one saying that fraternities and gangs are the exact same thing. This is how he started the video. When you're in a fraternity, right, you want your son to join. Like, you want your son to join, not any fraternity. You want him to join yours. You're bringing him around the fraternity. The fraternity's having events for kids and families. Like, your little cousin, you want everybody to join it. As many people as you can. So, again, to Jim Jones's logic, which there is none, if the gangs are such a positive, misunderstood force, why would you not want your son to join? Why is there a need for gang prevention programs?
I don't want him to join, but I wouldn't stop him from joining.
Why wouldn't you want him to though?
Because he came up different than I did.
Indeed.
Got you.
You heard?
Yeah.
He don't know what being in Harlem or being in the hood is. He don't know what it is to have to rely on that brotherhood or come outside and need that brotherhood or come outside or have to be a leader for that brotherhood. Like he didn't have his back against it.
I don't know Jim Jones's story, but growing up in the hood, like most people who grow up in the hood are not in gangs. It's a minority of people in that community who are in gangs. Most people who grow up in the hood are going to school, they're raising a family, they're going to work. It's not like, oh, we grew up out here, so we needed to join a gang. No, most people who live in these hoods are not in gangs. Now, I don't know if Jim Jones is just speaking to the specific lifestyle that he lived or chose to do. Maybe that's applicable to his cloth of person, but it's not just applicable to growing, like, oh, I grew up in the hood, so I had to do this. No. Like, 90% of the people watching this video grew up in the hood. Were you in a gang? Okay.
Well,
Were you forced?
And I hope he never have to go through that.
But
you know what I mean?
is that a prerequisite for joining? Like if I
Yeah.
It's not a
I
prerequisite.
wasn't raised like that.
And not a did you hear what I said? I don't want him to join, but I would not stop him from joining. His father is a blood, and I'm a pretty positive, successful blood member. You heard? Like I've done a lot of things wrong, and I've done a lot of things right, like any of us in here have done. You heard? My brotherhood, I always try to lift up. I've never told somebody to do anything negative when they're around me. I don't need them for that. You know what I mean? Coming up, yeah,
It's on.
you heard? It's a
So he just contradicted himself. He said, I've never told anyone negative to do anything negative. But no, then he quickly retracted. Well, actually, I did in the past, but now I don't. Like, you're not helping your case for this whole gangs are fraternities type, conversation you're trying to have.
It's a lot of energy, but I got this thing you won't know till you grow, and I did a lot of growing. You understand? You did? So I'm able to turn the narrative and what people see, especially in my community. That's why I'm always there. I don't go to my community to shine on nobody or shine on nobody. What's the purpose in that? But I go there to be the beacon of light that I am for these kids and see that there's somebody that came out the same circumstances that they did that can figure out how to get out the matrix. You dig? I ain't perfect, but I'm a perfect example of what hard work, dedication, and a lot of prayer could do for you.
Yeah, you can get out that matrix without joining a gang. You can go to the military, you can go to college, you can go to trade school, like, you can work at the post office. So anyways, that's Jim Jones. I think it's great that he's trying to put out a positive message. I think his messaging is getting there. This is a guy who had a song called Certified Gangsters, and he's slowly kind of trying to be more positive, which is great. I don't think what he's saying is really helpful at all, like trying to misrepresent what street gangs are. I think it's great that he may be trying to change what they are. Like, instead of, let's do more positive things. I think that's great. Second Childhood by Nas. Go listen to that song. Those are my thoughts. So anyway, that's all I got for today. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Top5rapwebsite.com. Peace.